everybody. Hopefully, you're all having a great Sunday so far. Very, very happy to be with you here after we have fallen back. Um, it was a rough morning, honestly. Just not trying to talk about myself, but full transparency, I overslept on top of also getting that extra hour. I did not wake up to my alarms. I set like 5 of them. Don't know how that happened, but I am still just exhausted. So if you're like that, you're like me, you are not alone. Good morning, Dana. Good morning, Justin. Hopefully you're all having a great day. So this morning we have a cold front rolling through the area. That's why there's a few more clouds to start off the day, but we will see a lot of sunshine this afternoon. If you were watching yesterday on Wake Up Charlotte Weekend, we talked a little bit about how the clouds were actually going to keep us warmer overnight. And that was the case. Our lows only dropped to the upper 30s. And while that might seem like, okay, it was so cold, it was, but we were 32 the morning before, 29 the morning before that, and 31 the morning before that. So it was at least a little bit better. I want to talk quickly about the drought situation. So we've been talking about this for a few days now as we do get the drought updates from the National U.S. Drought Monitor every single Thursday morning. Our entire viewing area right now is under a moderate drought. That's the light brown with portions of, let me get this right. Okay. York County, Western, portions of Western Gaston, all of Cleveland, almost all of Burke, with the exception of the higher elevations, and then a sliver of Caldwell County that is under a severe drought. So the light yellow, that's a 1 out of 5. The light brown, 2 out of 5. Those areas I just mentioned, that's a severe, that's a 3 out of 5. So things are starting to get a little bit worse. We had a few stories on WCNC Charlotte this morning, which you can find over on our WCNC Charlotte mobile app, talking about a few local counties that have already started to ask people to kind of limit their water usage, as well as be cautious in terms of things like bonfires and using any kind of products, things like that, that could increase a fire risk. Now, overall for Charlotte, I want to show you this map because we actually have year to date a 1/4 inch surplus in rain. But notice that almost every single month, especially recently, saw a really big deficit or a really big surplus. There really weren't a lot of months that we've been consistently slightly dry or slightly wetter than normal. Now, what happens is during the wet season, so it's July, August, September, early October, we expect to see a lot of rain. We kind of expect to teeter-totter during some of the other months, especially the drier months, although January was really wet, especially for January standards. But recently, September, almost 3 inches in the hole, 2 1/4 about for October. And of course, this month we haven't seen anything. So normally when we talk about drought going into the dry season, we're really looking at the most recent months. So although the year to date number is higher, and I'm just being fully transparent about that, it doesn't mean that we're not still, I guess, at a concern because of the fact that we're into the dry season, into the higher drought chances, so to speak. And so when this happens, oftentimes when we have a lack of moisture, so drier conditions in the air, we have a cold front moving through today, which is kind of reinforcing the drier air. I wouldn't say it's humid today, but you might notice at least not as dry as it has been. You add in the dry vegetation, things like dry leaves on the ground, and the fact that it's just that time of the year where people are having bonfires, things like that. Fires can spread quickly. Sometimes the weather can spark independently a fire, but oftentimes it's from people, having bonfires and maybe not fully putting them out, going camping and not fully putting out a fire. Sometimes even if you pull over on the side of the road and the brush is dry, your exhaust pipe can spark a fire, things like that. So normally the weather just helps if it's at a higher risk, like it is recently. It kind of helps facilitate or spread the fire. It's lesser often that it's what sparks the fire initially. So a lot of those fires, of course, are caused by humans. So we kind of just need to be aware of this, especially when conditions are at an elevated fire danger risk, which they are today and this week. We're at high and very high conditions for most of the Charlotte metro area, including both North and South Carolina. And really only folks near the immediate coast right now are kind of at a low to moderate. So this is most of the state. So just please be cautious of this as we kind of talk more about the drought conditions and the fire risk here over the next few days. I really want everyone to stay completely safe. Now, the current situation, of course, I mentioned, we have a front moving through, so clouds have cleared for the mountains and foothills, and we're still working on the clouds clearing for the rest of the Piedmont. This still is going to be a nice day to get outside. You can see the WCNC Doppler radar, at least keeping us dry and quiet. Now, this afternoon, as we become mostly sunny, temperatures will warm up. We were around 71 yesterday, today around 74, 75. So another nice afternoon. I think if folks are heading to the Panthers game, it's going to be extremely comfortable and nice. Last weekend, we were talking about record heat, so it was a risk of being hot, let's say, during the game. I don't think that'll be a worry today because when you think about around 75 or so, you add that 10 to 15 degree if you're in the direct sun, and we're talking now mid to upper 80s versus, of course, what we're seeing for other portions of the area. So, for example, last weekend, we had highs in the mid 80s. So you added that 10 to 15 degrees. So it felt like the mid to upper 90s. Whereas today we're in the mid 70s. So it feels more like the mid to upper 80s. That's not to say that you won't still feel warm. It's just going to be kind of a different feel because we're closer to average. So the full sunshine will feel like the 80s versus the 90s. And normally this time of year, we do still see that elevated risk when you're in the direct sun because of the sun angle. During the summer, it's more like 15 to 20 degrees. Right now, it's kind of 10 to 15. Sometimes as we get closer to winter, especially into December when the Panthers are playing at home, it can sometimes be 5 to 10. But it's just the way the cookie crumbles. Knowing where you are at the bank is extremely important. When you're in the direct sun, it feels hotter. But if you've ever been in the shade, especially on a cool day, it can feel really chilly really quickly. Now, with the drought, of course, situation we've talked about, we also don't really have a lot of rain to help with that over the next 5 days. But I am seeing some signs that we could see some rain by Friday into Saturday. This doesn't look to be anywhere close to enough to take care of the drought situation completely, but will be at least a helpful factor as we get closer to the end of this week and into the weekend. As I've looked at the 7-day rainfall forecast over the past few weeks and really kind of the past few months, it's almost looked like there was a big hole right over the Georgia and the Carolinas because of high pressure. That doesn't mean that we won't see a few dry days here coming up, but whereas we've seen a hole where you see nothing, at least the sign over the next 7 days is hinting at something. Now, I don't think this will be a significant opportunity for rain, but maybe at least some kind of accumulation. At this point, we're looking at any kind of positive as we look ahead to that small chance of rain just because of how much our drought conditions have continued to expand. So this is the small little hint of at least something. It certainly, though, just want to be clear on that, is not going to completely take care of our drought conditions. So it's kind of a summary here. We had daylight saving time in this morning. So if you're watching this, it is 10:23, not 11:23. Don't forget to set those clocks, things like your car. Lots of sunshine this afternoon, mid 70s. We're in the mid 70s again tomorrow with slightly drier air. Really soaring those temperatures to the upper 70s to lower 80s by the middle part of this week. And then our next big drop in temps comes with our next chance of rain on Friday. That's that small chance to see a few showers. I think it's Friday afternoon into Saturday morning, and then things will clear out by the second half of Saturday and Sunday. So that's kind of what we're expecting for this week. Again, I don't think that we have any kind of hazardous weather other than the fire danger over the next week, but we are looking ahead to some hopeful signs that we'll see some rain for the upcoming Friday afternoon. Of course, especially for this time of year, but every part of this time of year, things can certainly change. So be sure to stay weather aware and stay up to date here with our WCNC Charlotte weather team. For now, I hope everybody has a great rest of your Sunday and go Panthers. Keep pounding, really hoping for our second win against the Colts today. Have a good one, everybody.